Hello. Hi everyone. Welcome to Selenium Python training program. Today we are going to study about a functions. What exactly a function is? A function is a set of statements that takes the inputs, do specific computations and produce some outputs. Okay, that's fine. Why we need a function? Let me give you a simple example out over here. So the main reason why we need a functions itself is a code reusability. So reusability means we can create it for one time and we can use it for multiple times. Okay, we can create it just for once and we can use it for multiple times. For that particular reason we are using this one. So what is this reusability? We need to know in bit more realistic way. So the example for this one is assume that we have a three testers. Tester 1, tester 2 and a tester 3. And the scenario we have a given to the first tester is a create user and the second guy is an edit user and the third person is a delete user. Assume that this is a program example. Okay, programming example. For suppose we have another example also, okay, which is a real world. So in the real world example, what I can say means real world example. And let me explain for this real world example first, and then we will move on to the programming example. In the real world, assume that you have a purchased an account in an Amazon.com and you are trying to purchase a product for the first time. At the very first time, whenever you are trying to purchase a product in the payment gateway, it will prompt you to the various options where assume that we have a selected a credit card info. Upon entering the credit card, there will be a checkbox for us, which is save card info to your account. So upon selecting that checkbox, moving further, whenever you are trying to purchase any particular product, this credit card will be pre-populated. Then you no need to enter the card information all the time. You just need to pass on the secret pin and proceed with your transaction. So what I have done, I selected the checkbox and I reduced my effort in entering the card info every time. So which is a reusability. One time I entered, I'm reusing it for the multiple times. The similar way, if you jump on to this programming example, the first user should log in and then create and then he need to log out from the application. The similar way, he needs to log in, edit, and log out. The similar way, log in, delete, log out. So in these situations, if you clearly observe, every time the user is logging in, the tester needs to write down a program to log in and to log out from an application. Instead of rewriting the code for multiple times, we can simply create login and a logout as a functions, and everyone can simply call those functions. So that we are reducing the effort for the other two developers. So tester 1 has completed the code for login and a logout. Tester 2 and tester 3 can simply reuse the code whatever the tester 1 has prepared, which we can call it as a functions. Okay, good enough. And even there is a unique syntax for these functions too. So the syntax for is here for def function a. And if you would like to perform operations using a parameters, you can pass on the parameters and you can write down the respective logic and we can add a return statement. And return statement for any method is an optional. Okay, let me jump on to my PyCharm and let me create a new test script here, example 11. And here let me paste that syntax here so that I can easily write down my script. So go back and paste it here, and now let me create a function def sum, and I would like to add a plus, or else I can say 3 plus 4. Okay, C is equal to 3 plus 4 and print C. So this function, or else this method is having a sum method, and in this sum we are writing down 3 plus 4, and we are storing the result in a C, and we are printing that particular C. Now, if you observe, we created a function. We need to know how to call a function. Calling is function name. We just need to call the function name. So my function name is a sum. That's it. And this method doesn't have any parameters. Now, let me run my test script. See here, the sum it returned as a 7. So here, if I'm changing the value to 3 plus 7, and when I run my test script, the output it returned as a 10. But the problem out over here is these values are user defined. So what we can say means we are restricting the sum method to always perform some of these 3 plus 7 itself. If I call this method for 10 different times, all the time it is printing only this value itself, which is a 10, which is not my requirement. So my requirement is I want to create a method in such a way that, okay, I want to create a method in such a way that I need to pass on the values for which it should perform some operation. Okay, for which it should perform the sum operation. So there comes parameters to a function comes into picture. Okay, so we need to pass on parameters to a particular function, and where we will be passing those parameters after the function name, we are opening a braces, right? Within the braces you have to pass those parameters. See, def add a comma b, and here c is equal to a plus b, and print C. And finally here, what I'm so here change it to D, and print D. And finally, what I'm going to do right now, add 3 comma 4 for the very first time. And the second time, I can change this value to 13, 14. And the third time, I can change it to 23rd, 24. And the fourth time, I can change it to these many. So whenever I'm calling that particular method, I can change my desired values. And now when I run my test script, see my sum is performing on a different sets of data. Okay, on a different sets of data. And my next requirement is I want to store the output of the methods into a variable so that moving further, I can use that data. In such situations, we can use a return statement to a function. How to use a return statement? See here, return that variable. See here, I'm creating another method now. So what I'm doing means def adding number a comma b, and here e is equal to a plus b, and return e. That's it. I'm returning this e. Now adding number 2 comma 3, but I know the result is, okay, the return type of this particular one is a e, so directly I can store sum is equal to, or else if it is confusing, p1 is a integer variable which I am creating, print p1. So when I run my test script this time, the p1 value it is printing to the console. So I can use this p1 and I can further perform an if conditions or some other logics, whatever I want, I can do that. So on top of it, instead of printing this one, if p1 is greater than 3, print some value is greater than 3. Like that, I can print, I can customize my code depending on our need, we can use it. So if you clearly observe, we created a function without any arguments. Later, we created a function with an arguments. And finally, we created a function with a return statement and we are calling that particular one. So these are all the various examples of how can we create a particular function, guys. So the next point out over here is what are all the various types of functions we have? See, there are two different types of functions available in Python. One is a built-in functions and the second one is the user defined functions. The functions whatever we have created right now as per our application requirement, we can call that particular functions as a user defined functions. See here, the definition is the functions which we create in our code are a user defined functions. Depending on our project specific requirement, we are going to create these user defined functions. Whereas the another set of functions is a built-in functions. These functions are predefined in a Python, and we need to use those existing functions. You can't customize them. Whatever the predefined functions are there, depending on our need, we can call those functions. So there are lots and lots of predefined functions we have in a Python. Depending on our need, we are going to use them. And immediately a quick question will rise in our mind: how can I use those built-in functions? Using an import a statement to your test script, we can use the built-in functions. Whatever the built-in functions are there available in a Python library, we can use an import a statement in your test script and you can get them. For suppose I'm switching back to my existing program, what we have created now. On top of my test script, I'm using import space. See, these many customized or the predefined functions are there. Among all those things, I'm just using a math like this. Okay, whichever you want, you can choose it and you can import it. So once after you imported the math functions here, what are all the customized functions are there with respect to this math, we can use it. So we don't know anything about the customized methods and all those things. Slowly moving further, we will see more details about these imports, how to use the various imports and how to call these imports and other stuff. We will be discussing moving further. Cool. So this is a high level overview on a functions, user defined functions, built-in functions and how to import them. So thank you guys. See you again in the next session. Thank you. Bye bye.